Hello there. Thank you for joining us on NAPTIP On The Move. My name is Angela Agbegi. Our package today brings you sights and sounds of the 3-day working visits by the officials of the National Committee for Combating Human Trafficking from the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire and the National Agency Against Trafficking in Persons from the Gambia. Our feature will tell you more about these visits if you stay with NAPTIP On The Move.
As a transnational organized crime, the fight against human trafficking requires synergy between all stakeholders. This informs NAPTIP's collaboration with national, regional and international organizations across borders. As the foremost counter-trafficking agency in Africa, the impact of NAPTIP informed the establishment of counter-trafficking agencies in other countries. And to effectively combat human trafficking, Nigeria and NAPTIP signed bilateral agreement and memorandum of understanding with countries including the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire and the Gambia. The signing of these documents informed the recent visits of the officials of the National Committee for Combating Human Trafficking, CNLTP, from the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire and the National Agency Against Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, from the Gambia to Nigeria. The 3-day study visit to exchange and share experience on the fight against trafficking in persons and smuggling of migrants by officials of the CNLTP from the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire was supported by Expertise France and the International Organization for Migration. The study visit started with an opening ceremony and opening speeches by the Chief of Mission of the International Organization for Migration, Laurent Debrec, and the Regional Project Manager of Expertise France, Modeste Kra. The technical advisor to the Minister of Solidarity and Fight Against Poverty of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, Jean-Philippe Thierry Nakobo, led the delegation. To begin my speech, I would like to convey to you the warm greetings of Ms. Belmonde Dogo, Minister for Solidarity and the Fight Against Poverty, and also Executive Secretary of the National Committee for Combating Human Trafficking, and to express her keen interest in this event, which is helping to strengthen sub-regional cooperation in the fight against human trafficking and migrant smuggling. Allow me to salute and thank the representatives of Expertise France and the International Organization for Migration, IOM, for the physical, material and financial efforts made to organize this event. Human trafficking and migrant smuggling are two phenomena that pose a real challenge both globally and in the West African sub-region. In response to the growing number of Nigerian victims of trafficking, a memorandum of understanding between the government of Cote d'Ivoire and the federal government of Nigeria to prevent, suppress, and punish human trafficking, particularly of women and children, was signed on November 6, 2021 in Abidjan. This 3-day working session is part of the implementation of the above-mentioned memorandum, as well as strengthening cooperation between the CNLTP and Nigeria's NAPTIP in the fight against human trafficking and migrant smuggling. It will also be an opportunity on the one hand to share experiences, achievements and results in the fight against the two phenomena, and on the other hand to share knowledge relating to the collection and dissemination of data on trafficking and smuggling of migrants. The Director General of NAPTIP, Professor Fatima Waziri Azi, welcomed the delegation and flagged off the meeting.
It is indeed a delight to welcome you all to this meeting aimed at sharing experience and good practices in the fight against human trafficking and smuggling of migrants. Human trafficking and its multi-dimensional effect is a crime that affects every country. Although proportionality and trends may differ, trafficking in persons continues to threaten the existence of humanity. The agreement between our countries to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children, which was signed on the 6th of November 2021, has already set parameters for our working arrangement in enforcement, prevention, detection, protection, repatriation, and rehabilitation of victims. As a country, we have scaled our efforts in tackling these crimes through our 5-pronged strategic approaches of prevention, protection, prosecution, partnership, and policy. All approaches have to be applied simultaneously. No one measure is more important than the other. In terms of prosecution, we have secured 615 convictions since the first conviction was secured in 2004. In 2022, we secured 80 convictions, the highest in a single year since the inception of NAPTIP. As we are prosecuting, we are putting in place preventive measures. As we do that, we ensure that protective measures are properly structured. We cannot fight the crime of human trafficking in isolation, which is why partnership is key through the whole of government and whole of society approach. Even though the 2023 Global Slavery Index estimates that 1.6 million people are living in modern slavery in Nigeria, it also states, and I quote, "Nigeria is outperforming its neighbors in its efforts to address modern slavery risk in the country. Nigeria had the strongest response to modern slavery in Africa, reflecting strong criminal justice mechanisms to address modern slavery, as well as steps taken to support survivors, address risk factors, and coordinate the response, including by launching a new national action plan on trafficking in persons." My takeaway from this is that recognizing the enormity of a problem and the ability to tackle same is extremely important.
After the opening ceremony, the technical sessions began with presentations by officials of Expertise France, IOM, NAPTIP and CNLTP. There were group works and presentations and also a tour of the NAPTIP call center and National Monitoring Center. It was an intensive and impactful 3-day visit. The National Agency Against Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP of the Gambia, signed a Memorandum of Understanding with NAPTIP Nigeria in June 2022. This informed the 3-day working visit to Nigeria for the inaugural Joint Technical Working Group meeting of the Nigeria and the Gambia MOU to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children, funded by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC. The opening ceremony had in attendance the ambassadors of the two countries, Ambassador Muhammad Manu, Nigerian ambassador to the Gambia, and Ambassador Muhammadu Musa Njie, the Gambian ambassador to Nigeria. Representatives from the embassies of the United States and the Netherlands were also in attendance. The country representative of the UNODC, Dr. Oliver Stolper, delivered the opening speech.
I would like to commend the efforts of NAPTIP and of NATIP and their two leaders, Mrs. Professor Fatima Waziri Azi and Mrs. Aissatou Dabo, in working towards a collaborative approach in preventing and countering trafficking in persons affecting both Nigeria and the Gambia. As we convene here today, it is crucial to acknowledge the gravity of the situation we face in the sub-Saharan African region and the urgent need for us all to stand together to accelerate action towards ending all forms of modern slavery and human trafficking. International and regional cooperation constitute one of the potential accelerators. The the Gambia MOU represents a real opportunity to add impact to our joint efforts by establishing direct channels of communication, adding speed and substance to the exchange of information, creating new avenues for operational cooperation in the investigation and prosecution of traffickers, as well as in rescuing, protecting, returning, and rehabilitating the victims of trafficking. A special thanks, of course, goes in this case to the governments of Netherlands and the United States for supporting this very initiative that brings us here together. Allow me to conclude by assuring you of the unwavering support of UNODC in Nigeria and in the Gambia for all initiatives that seek to promote regional and international cooperation towards ending human trafficking and all forms of modern slavery.
There were goodwill messages from officials of FIAP, implementers of the ATIPSON project, Embassy of the Netherlands, and ECOWAS.
Our work in facilitating the success of member states, of course, is not limited to the work on the plan of action. There is the multilateral cooperation agreement between countries of West and Central Africa. There is also the ECOWAS Convention on Mutual Assistance in Legal Matters, that on extradition, and a number of other instruments which member states continue to take advantage of. We are particularly pleased to see that Nigeria and the Gambia specifically have a long tradition of learning from each other and of supporting each other. I recall the missions by the Gambia almost 10 years ago to Abuja, Nigeria, to understudy what was happening then. Indeed, I think that was part of what led initially to the establishment of NAPTIP itself. It is important for ECOWAS, from the ECOWAS point of view, to emphasize our role in facilitation, convening, and ensuring peer review and accountability between member states.
Then, the Executive Director of the National Agency Against Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP Gambia, Aisato Dabo, also made a speech.
The Gambia and Nigeria are no exception. Human trafficking, which is often invisible and rarely reported, takes many forms, including labor exploitation, forced prostitution, child shouldering, to name a few. The MOU is an important step towards our concerted efforts in combating human trafficking between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Gambia. The collaboration is important because it will enable us to enhance our capacities and strengthen our collaborative efforts in the fight against trafficking in persons. We believe that this partnership would bring about groundbreaking impacts in the ways our agencies affect trafficking-related issues. This memorandum of understanding is crucial in several aspects. It creates a platform of collaboration between our two countries. Nigeria has been at the forefront of the fight against human trafficking, and their experience and extensive knowledge will be valuable to our efforts in the Gambia. Such partnership will enhance intelligence and information sharing, which is pivotal in a successful counter-trafficking. We expect this relationship to facilitate better collaboration, joint activities, and the sharing of best practices. I always say that the Federal Republic of Nigeria is big brother on many fronts. Looking at the number of convictions they've secured, how many shelters they have in place, generally the main setup of NAPTIP is an example for the Gambia to learn from and see how best we can improve our system while we collaborate with NAPTIP to make things better, not just for our people, but for persons that are from vulnerable communities and vulnerable individuals as well. I assure you that the National Agency for Trafficking in Persons of the Gambia will spare no efforts in fulfilling our obligation under this MOU, and we look forward to a fruitful collaboration with our Nigerian counterparts.
The Director General of NAPTIP, Professor Fatima Waziri Azi, welcomed all present.
It is indeed a delight to welcome you all to this 3-day inaugural Joint Technical Working Group meeting, which seeks to strengthen institutional response and develop joint strategies to controlling trafficking in persons between our countries. As two focal agencies mandated to tackle the scourge of trafficking in persons in our respective countries, we are duty-bound to cooperate in the interest of our citizens and all of society. Since the execution of the MOU, NAPTIP, in collaboration with our Ministry of Foreign Affairs and National Intelligence Agency, have successfully rescued and repatriated a number of Nigerian victims. 6 victims have been rescued and repatriated, and 10 victims have been rescued and awaiting repatriation. 2 suspects have been arrested in the Gambia, and there are 2 ongoing investigations. The MOU has already set parameters for our working arrangement in prosecution, identification, protection, return, repatriation, rehabilitation, and reintegration of victims. But of course, to be impactful, the MOU has to be implemented for it to be meaningful, which is why we are all here today. It is on record that NAPTIP is the foremost anti-human trafficking law enforcement agency in Africa, and it is also a fact that many African countries came to Nigeria to understudy the inner workings of NAPTIP and model their anti-trafficking structures after NAPTIP, and the latest is Sierra Leone. This Joint Technical Working Group is aimed at strengthening the Nigerian-Gambia cooperation through the development of all collective guidelines and joint coordinated counter-trafficking interventions, and most importantly, the implementation of SING. The Joint Working Group will, among other responsibilities, promote synergy with other working groups and actors in complementary sectors, facilitate the process of information sharing to aid joint operational success, share responsibilities for JTWG activities, including the development of management of cross-border trafficking in persons guidelines and tools, proactively share best practices, lessons learned, and findings from assessments, monitoring, and evaluation, disseminate the information, guidance, decisions, and tools developed in the JTWG within our respective agencies.
Done with the opening ceremony, technical session started in earnest with several presentations by the UNODC, NAPTIP from the Gambia, and NAPTIP in Nigeria. This was highly interactive, and the highlight was a formal inauguration of the members of the Joint Technical Working Group from the 2 countries. Aside technical sessions, the NAPTIP team also visited the headquarters of NAPTIP, where they were taken on a tour of the agency's facilities. The 3-day working visit will ensure and enhance the effective implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding between Nigeria and the Gambia. The working visits of the officials of CNLTP from the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire and NAPTIP of the Gambia has not only strengthened ties between the countries to effectively fight human trafficking, it is also an attestation of NAPTIP's leadership in the sub-region and indeed the continent of Africa.
NAPTIP recently paraded 2 suspects of human trafficking. Take a look. The management of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, paraded 2 suspects of human trafficking, and the Director General of NAPTIP, Professor Fatima Waziri Azi, addressed the press on the trafficking case.
On the 9th of June 2023 at about 11 in the morning, the agency busted a human trafficking syndicate that specializes in moving young female Nigerians between the ages of 16 and 26 to India for various forms of sexual exploitation. The sting operation was conducted after several days of undercover activity by operatives of the agency, and 2 female victims aged 16 and 22 who were rescued few minutes before they were taken to the embassy narrated their pathetic stories of how they were lured by the syndicates who forced them to swear an oath of allegiance in 2 different shrines located within Delta and Imo states respectively. One of the victims also revealed that her very close friend, who was already trafficked to India, was subjected to having sex with a minimum of 10 men a day, a situation that obviously gave her sleepless nights before being rescued by operatives of NAPTIP. And obviously she was already having second thoughts, but didn't know how to back out due to the threats from her handlers and the oath that she had already taken.
She also highlighted some of the documents that were found with the suspects.
The two suspects who operated a mobile tour company at the time of the arrest were in possession of 28 passports. So we have passports from Nigeria, from Ghana, and Republic of Benin and Niger Republic. So from 4 different countries, including Nigeria. And other materials under forensic examination are laptops. You can see the phones that were recovered from them, as well as other equipment relating to the commission of the crime. So, and also a total of 10 letterheads with different company names were also recovered, as you can see displayed there. So in addition to investigating and the possible prosecution of the crime of human trafficking, we have equally placed the hotel they harbored the victims under red alerts, as monies were remotely paid on behalf of victims. We all know that human trafficking is a predicate offense to money laundering. So once you follow the money will take you to the very person at the top of the food chain. So while we investigate the crime itself, we'll also, of course, in collaboration with EFCC, try and NFIU, try and investigate the crime of money laundering.
Members of the press present asked salient questions, which were duly addressed by the Director General of NAPTIP. After the press briefing, the two suspects were interrogated by the press. NAPTIP is leaving no stone unturned to ensure that human traffickers are brought to book. In an effort to strengthen the agency's response to cybercrimes, the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, in collaboration with the International Justice Mission from the United States of America, organized a refresher training workshop for the agency's cybersecurity response team. The training, which is aimed at equipping the participants to access, assess, and act on cyber tip line reports made available in Nigeria, is the second in the series of trainings for the cybersecurity response team. The Director General of NAPTIP, Professor Fatima Waziri Azi, expressed delight at the level of interface between the trainers and the participants. The facilitators were drawn from the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, International Justice Mission, Interpol, UNODC, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The training was funded by META and the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement. A federal high court in Calabar, Cross River State, presided over by Honorable Justice Ijoma Ojukwu, has sentenced 2 females to 5 years imprisonment and a fine of 2 million naira for the sale of a 1-year-old male child. The first convict, Blessing Etim Asokwo, is sentenced to 5 years imprisonment and a fine of 2 million naira. While the second convict, Udwak Uem Sunday, is also sentenced to 5 years imprisonment and a fine of 2 million naira. The offense is contrary and punishable under Section 21 of the Trafficking in Persons, Prohibition, Enforcement and Administration Act, 2015.
My auntie brought me to come and stay with these people, and we stay with them, go to school and take care of their children. And I've been here 3 years, and I came here. School have not been faithful to me. They beat me, they maltreat me. One day they beat me and someone saw it, and usually I go to school, so the person saw me and went to report to NAPTIP, and NAPTIP came and took me from there. I want to thank NAPTIP for the good things NAPTIP have done for me. I'm so grateful to NAPTIP. Thank you, NAPTIP.
For more inquiries and support, or to report cases of suspected human trafficking, violence against persons and child abuse, please call NAPTIP hotline 0703 0000203 or the short code 627, or email us info@naptip.gov.ng. Visit our website www.naptip.gov.ng. Follow us on our social media platforms at NAPTIP Nigeria or watch our videos on YouTube.
Our time is up, but I must thank you for watching and urge you to keep a date with us next week. I'm Angela Adwigi. Until we come your way again, bye for now.